Everything you've always wanted to know about real estate, but didn't know who to ask. I'm your host, Angie Stanley. Today we have a great lineup, starting off with Sam Beckett with Sierra Pacific Mortgage. We have Ann Schreiber, who is a realtor with Coldwell Banker, and we have Gerald Montes from the Termite Guy. Well, hi Sam, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Good, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
So I really am interested to find out how you got into the lending industry.
Well, to keep a long story short, years ago I had an auto detail business, mobile detail, come to your office and do your cars and whatnot. Very successful, ran a couple crews. And when I bought my home, my first one 14 years ago, I used one of my clients to get the home, and going through the process I really enjoyed the paperwork, ironically enough. Most people hate the paperwork, but really enjoyed it and was interested in the number side of it. Both parents being entrepreneurs, really just love dealing with numbers. My mother's a CPA, so something about it just drew me in. And a couple years later, next thing I know, I'm getting my license and giving the mortgage world a shot and sold my detail business. So
wow.
That was 11 years ago.
It's so interesting to see how people kind of mold into their careers.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. So how would you say, what makes you different from other lenders out there?
Well, most lenders, all follow the same guidelines nowadays, so it's hard to say what makes you different. My personal opinion about what makes me different to help my real estate agents and my clients is I'm realistic about things. I'm not going to just sugarcoat it to get somebody in the door. I'm genuine with my clients. I'm going to tell them what reality is. I'm going to go over payment numbers, closing costs, and I'm not going to give a pre-approval letter unless we get the right documentation in the door. So a lot of people appreciate that, and I'd say just sticking to that and building that trust and relationship makes me maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, that is true. Very good information. So you work for Sierra Pacific Mortgage.
Uh-huh.
What would you say is different about your company?
Sierra Pacific Mortgage is a true direct lender, meaning we fund the loan with our money. We don't go through what's called a broker or a correspondent or anything like that. So anytime we're underwriting the file, it's underwritten in-house. We're following the guidelines of whatever loan type we're doing through the agency meaning Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA. And we fund it with our own money, like I was saying. Sierra Pacific Mortgage last year serviced $7 billion of their own loans. So we are a true direct lender. So when someone says they're a direct lender, what does that mean? That's Sierra Pacific Mortgage.
And what are some of the advantages of that? Is it, quicker closing time, better processing? I mean, what are the advantages of working with a direct lender?
The advantages would be you don't have a lot of overlays, meaning separate rules and guidelines put on top of regulations for what different, what Fannie Mae may want, for example, or FHA. You have more control over the file, usually a little bit better pricing on interest rates and whatnot.
Okay, it's definitely beneficial. Do you carry any niche products?
Niche products, like I said, everyone is following pretty much the same thing nowadays. So it's hard to say what your niche product is. For me personally, I'd like to say that one of the biggest things that I'm really good at that I consider a niche is reviewing self-employed borrowers' income. A lot of people don't know how to do it, and in my opinion, based on the fact that my mother's a CPA, I really understand looking at corporate returns, personal returns for the self-employed, and I've been successful at getting a lot of self-employed people into homes over the last few years that were told they couldn't before in the past. So really knowing how to review that. And then Sierra Pacific Mortgage, one of our biggest niches I think overall is just the lender credits we can offer for VA and FHA. We have tons of loans closing right now where we're covering 100% of the closing cost. For example, I have a client right now at a $417,000 purchase, and he's getting all his closing costs covered. He's just besides himself on a VA deal that he doesn't have to bring any money in whatsoever. VA, it's 100% financing, but usually they have to cover some kind of closing costs, and he thinks there's something behind the scenes going on that he's going to get caught with at the end of the day, and no, we're covering all the closing costs. Very beneficial. So I'd say that's a big niche that we can cover all those closing costs for clients.
That's great, and I do agree that it's the self-employed, taxes they look a little different.
Yes.
I've been getting emails lately from all sorts of different lenders out there talking about not having to have your tax returns anymore, but they look at the past 12 months bank statements. What is your feeling with that? I feel like it's kind of going back to the old days. Is that a good thing, a bad thing?
Well, I'm a firm believer that maybe the stated income loans should come back to a certain point, but very, very strict guidelines and no, questions asked. You can't get an exception. It has to be this, 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 and this, very black and white. Because there are a lot of people that fall in that category that are going to make their mortgage payments and never be late. I mean, the guy that has an 800 credit score, has $300,000 in the bank for reserves, let's say, is putting at least 30% down. That guy's not going to go delinquent on a regular basis. And it's just kind of a trend that they're going to make their payments on time. But as far as the bank statement thing, without knowing what emails you're seeing, I can't really say it's a good or bad. But honestly, a lot of people keep saying that things are loosening up, and in reality, a lot of things are still tightening up. For example, Fannie Mae just changed August 15th to go from a 2-year wait period on short sales to 4-year wait period.
Wow.
So there's still, behind the scenes, there's lots of stuff still tightening up and changing that, is just getting yourself hooked up with the knowledgeable lender.
Absolutely. Okay, so what would your favorite part of your career be?
My favorite part is helping people reach their goals. Helping families get into their first home, or moving up to the next home, or buying investment properties. I just love dealing with that emotional side. Sounds crazy, but besides working the numbers, trying to figure out the strategy on how to get someone to their goal, I love that side of it as well. Again, going back to the numbers and that part that I like. But just really, at the end of the day, telling someone, we just closed on your new home, especially if someone that hasn't purchased before, or someone that hasn't purchased for a while. Perfect example, just helped somebody about 3 months ago. He was referred over to me in March from his real estate agent. For a year before that, he was working with a lender, trying to figure out how to get approved for a home loan. He had a nasty divorce, a bunch of background stuff. The lender just kept telling him, no, there's no way we can do it, and it just didn't make sense. So his agent finally said, you know what, I know you've been working with that guy for a while, but I really need you to call Sam. I got a hold of him. We went through everything, and in 30 days I told him he's ready to go.
Wow, so I guess...
And so, bottom line was, we got him into a home, and the part that I love about my job, when he closed, and I congratulated him when I called him, and a grown man broke down on the phone saying, I cannot believe this actually happened. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
That was awesome.
So lesson learned, even if someone tells you no, definitely talk to several professionals.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much, Sam. It was very informative. And next up, we have Ann Schreiber, who is with Coldwell Banker and is a realtor.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Nickel from San Diego Probate Law, and you're watching
Oakwood TV.
Oakwood TV.
Oakwood TV. OakwoodTV.tv, the first online TV station for the real estate industry.
We are back and lucky enough to be joined by Ann Schreiber, who is a realtor with Coldwell Banker. Hi, Ann. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
So I loved reading your bio yesterday and learning more about you, and I'm very interested to know, how did you make the transition from managing a Stroller Strides franchise, a very large franchise, to becoming a realtor?
Well, I think the skills I learned directing that franchise translated really well, because that was also a very fast-growing business, and I learned a lot by watching the owner, Lisa Druxman, who was always putting new scaffolding and structures into place, which I did so she did that at the corporate level. I did it for her corporately owned franchise, and it's just been the same in real estate. So when you have something that's fast-growing, you kind of feel like you have to keep jumping off cliffs, because you have to keep hiring people, buying more systems, getting more technology, scaffolding, putting everything in place so that you can continue to focus on what's most important, which is client care and helping them achieve their goals.
Absolutely, I agree with that. So in real estate, as a realtor, are there certain areas that you focus on more than others demographically?
I'm very focused on neighborhood. I mean, that's a definite for me. So I focus in my own neighborhood, my own zip code, and also where my office is located. So that's the 92127 zip code and also 92067. A lot of the demographic is sometimes dictated by the market. So this whole year has been all about the move-up buyer. So that's been my focus this year, but next year might be different depending on what the market's doing.
Absolutely. I know that you do a lot of stuff over in Del Sur, and I know that there's a lot happening over there. It seems like there's all these new developments and very exciting things. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, Del Sur, I grew up in San Diego, and I've lived in Alaska, I've lived in Indiana, and I've lived all over San Diego, and I can say without a doubt there's no other neighborhood in San Diego like Del Sur. The only other neighborhood that I think compares is in LA, Ladera Ranch, which was built sort of with the same philosophy. But Del Sur is a very unique community because it's so community centric, and the developers, as they were creating the landscaping, the fencing, the HOA rules, it was all about neighbors interacting, and that culture exists. So it's not like you have to try to create it. Everyone is there together, really. You know your neighbors, they are your good friends, all your kids walk to school together, and they're just continuing to build more and more in the neighborhood and continuing to just add to that great presence.
That's wonderful. Yeah, you don't have that in many areas anymore. Okay, so how does your extensive athletic background assist you in real estate? I know that you have a very long background in sports and training and all of that.
Well, I think someone once told me that, it was my broker actually, when I interviewed with him, he talked about, because I put some of it on my resume, and he said, I'm really glad you put this here because I always look for people that have participated in collegiate athletics. And I'd never heard that before coming, from an interview perspective, and he said, that someone that can reach a high level in sports understands discipline, hard work, delayed gratification, operating outside their comfort zone, and if you can do that in one arena, really if you can master it in one arena, you start to have confidence in yourself, and you can start just applying that to whatever it is you want to go after. So I think that I'm not afraid of hard work. I think that's the biggest part, and I know that if you put a lot of time and energy into what you want and you're very clear about it, that you'll get a great outcome.
Yeah,
but you have to wait for it.
With that. Yes, it's not an immediate payoff.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so rewarding, though.
Yeah.
So tell me, Ann, how do you set yourself apart in the real estate industry? I know it's a crazy industry out there.
I think I try to. There's a lot of noise in real estate. It's a very conflict-infused, problem-infused business, and I try very hard to just stay focused on the most important thing, which is my client, the person that hired me, and what their goal is, and whatever that goal is, and which is typically passionately protect my equity, whether it's on sell or buy, and everything else. If you just stay focused on that one thing, everything else kind of does end up falling into place. In a commission-only business, speaking just as what I do for a living, there's a lot of real estate agents that spend a lot of their time on the phone prospecting, or looking for the next deal. And I felt from the beginning that if I just focused on the people that hired me and gave them service that was first class, above reproach, ethical, passionately, protecting their equity, and I did that relentlessly, that I would have predictable business. And that's sort of how I've structured my business. So I don't do phone aerobics all day, which I'm sure my real estate coach and broker would be sad to hear, but I've created a predictable business, and I like that that's how I'm spending my time, because that's what I was hired to do, is to focus on that person and help them achieve their goals.
Absolutely. It's sustainable. That's amazing. Okay, so back to kind of your clients, what would be your top 3 tips to a home buyer in today's market?
Well, hire a great agent, that's number one, and someone that's going to push you. Buyers sort of, there are some buyers, I would say, a very small percentage of buyers that know exactly what they want. And those are great to work with because they're hyper-focused, and you can achieve that goal a lot faster. There's a lot of buyers that don't know what they want. They have a sort of a feeling, but they're not sure, or maybe they're moving from out of state and they want to learn the neighborhood. So, I think hiring a great agent that will consult you, that will ask you the tough questions, because if it's a husband and wife, they're not going to agree all the time. And so restating things and helping people prioritize, really a consultant. that's the first thing. And then your lender is right there. You know, a lender can make or break the whole thing. And I think lenders should be interviewed just like real estate agents should be interviewed. You need to find someone you can trust, because above everything else, when you sit down, you know, buyer A, buyer B, or whoever it is, and you're making these decisions of who you're going to hire for this process, you have to know you're going to be able to trust that person, because when that starts to change, it creates a lot of problems that don't need to exist ultimately. Yeah, I mean, I think those would be, you know, what I would recommend.
Just having a trustworthy team, an experienced team, interview. That's the one thing I hear out there is they kind of just go with the first realtor or the lender that the realtor suggests or whoever, and it's like, you know, you have options. You really got to figure out what's out there and what's best for you.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Wonderful. It was amazing information, Ann, and thanks so much for coming on again. And next up, we have Gerald Montes, who is with the Termite Guy.
Aloha, Gerald Montes here with the Termite Guy. You're watching
And you're watching
And you're watching
You're watching
You're watching Oakwood TV,
Oakwood TV.
Oakwood TV.
Oakwood TV.
oakwoodtv.tv.
Hello, and now we're joined with Gerald Montes from the Termite Guy. Hi, Gerald. How are you?
Aloha, nice to meet you. Good to be here.
Great. Thanks for coming. Okay, so tell me, what is the Termite Guy?
The Termite Guy basically is a full-service termite company. We are branch 1, 2, and 3, which is we do our own fumigations, branch 1. Branch 2, pest control. We have a pest control division, and branch 3 also certifications for termite. On top of that, we're also licensed general contractors as well as licensed roofers. So it's kind of a one-stop shop.
Okay.
And we deal all escrow, a lot of escrow transactions. So pretty much realtors is our forum, and you know we like to keep it easy for the realtors, you know, just to make their transactions a lot easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say that you're kind of A, B, and C in a full encompassing service, so are other termite services out there not necessarily offering those services?
Yeah, most companies out there, I mean, not to name any names, but they all say pest control. You know, our company name states it all, the Termite Guy. So we specialize in termite construction, roofing. It kind of all ties together. When you start doing termites, you know, it's all wood damage, you know, and as licensed contractors, our guys are out there to find out damaged areas of the wood, and we repair all the wood properly. You know, we warranty all our work, and just make sure the property is ready to go for the next buyer, next homeowner.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does someone like yourself get into this business?
I fell into it. One of my really good friends, Alex Del Toro, started the business in '97, and I knew Alex Del Toro way before he started, and he's done well. Actually, I'm from Hawaii, and just finished a job with the federal government, and I was open, and he offered me the position to come out to San Diego and open the San Diego division. So I said, all right, let's take a shot at it and move out to San Diego, which is not so bad compared to Hawaii. I think actually the weather's better out here.
You do.
Yeah, it's too hot in Hawaii. Nothing against Hawaii.
Yeah. I like it warm, but yeah. So you transitioned here and just kind of took a leap of faith, and here we are.
And here we are, and
however
it's
many
been going
years
well.
later.
Yeah,
Wow.
you know, people in the industry have been welcoming a lot of aloha, open arms, and it's been a great run so far.
That's
last year and a half.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said that you work with a lot of escrows. So why is termite inspection so important in real estate?
Well, it's important because it depends on really the situation of the matter. Depending on the buyer-seller side, you know, it's always good to know what's happening with the property. So depending on what side of it you're looking at.
If someone's lived in the house for a long time, how often would you refer or suggest that someone gets their house inspected?
Every 10 years, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'd say 5. You know, every 10 years the house should be fumed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's something good to know.
Interesting. For a first-time home buyer, though, when you're buying a new home, you don't know the history of the house. Why is that very important for a termite inspection?
Well, it's good to know what the buyer's getting into, you know, on the property itself. That's why it's a bit, like you said, important. It's good to have the seller side kind of figure out what kind of damages around the house, what needs to be done, so the buyer will know also what kind of monies are to be spent and kind of negotiate on top of that
Okay.
with the pricing.
Now, are they mandatory when you're buying a new home? Do the lenders usually mandate that you have a termite inspection, or how does that all
Yeah.
work?
Yes, it is mandatory to get the inspection because it's always proper to know what's going on with the houses, in the escrow business, real estate side. So
Okay, so definitely any new home that they're buying, unless it's a cash as is offer, they're going to need to get a home
sure,
inspection.
absolutely.
Now, walk me through. Okay, someone shows up at my house to do a home inspection. What happens next? I mean, am I there for it? Do I leave? How does that all work?
I recommend most of my clients, the realtors, to actually be there, even with the homeowner, as the inspector goes through. Our inspectors are very knowledgeable about what's going on. And instead of getting the report and just seeing a number on there, I'd like to have them actually walk them around the property and kind of point things out and kind of explain what's going on with the damages. And that way when it comes to that property, when that report comes to them, they actually have, okay, he mentioned this, this, and this, and this. So they're actually knowledgeable about what's happening on the report when it does come to them the
Makes
very
sense.
next day. Yeah.
So someone gets a report back and they're being told they need to fumigate. Tell me, how common is that? And if they have to fumigate, what does that involve?
Fumigation is something, it's actually the best when it's going through escrow because fumigation takes a lot of work. It's a 3-day process. The homeowner or individual needs to be out of the property for 3 days. So it's actually best we try to schedule it when the property is vacant. That way, there's a lot of packing up and putting materials that are ingestible. That's just for precautionary matters, for health reasons, of course. But it's something, depending on the situation of the property and the transaction, it's not always necessarily a fume.
Okay.
We can always local treat as well, depending again on the situation of the matter.
And how common is it when people do get an inspection for them to find termites? I know that it freaks people out.
It's, most of the findings are always with the older homes, but you never know. Termites can be, it's very seasonal. It depends on, I guess, how old the property is. I mean, the newer properties will probably be more, more clear, compared to the older homes.
Okay, makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mhm.
Okay, so as we wrap up, can you give me 3 top tips you give for someone that's looking for a termite inspector? They're buying a new home, they got to get a termite inspection. How do they know, the top 3 tips to find the right person?
As I stated earlier, a lot of the companies out there say pest control, the name of the company and pest control. Again, we are branch 2. We do have a pest control division, and our name says itself, company, the termite guy, full service termite company.
So just really do your
Just
research,
do
know who
some
you're
due
sending your business
diligence.
to.
And it's I mean, all the companies out there are all very well, all good, but as like I said, the termite guy, that's what we do. That's our main focus.
So need a termite inspection, call the termite guy.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thanks so much, Gerald, and thanks so much for your information.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank all of you for watching. If you're interested in being featured on the show, or if you want to check out past episodes, log on to www.oakwoodtv.tv. Thanks again for watching.